Now, after a successful free hit in blank game week 34, we do find ourselves with another juicy green arrow and currently find ourselves in the top 9k of all players, which is absolutely ridiculous. And in today's video, we're going to take a look at my transfer plans heading into game week 35 and of course focusing on the rest of the season. Now, before we head into today's video, of course, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It is massively appreciated by myself. Taking a look then at the team so far for game week 34. Obviously, there's still one fixture left to play, Nottingham Forest versus Brentford. That, of course, takes place on Thursday night. I've actually still got a player within my team to play as well, so we could potentially be on for an even bigger green arrow this week, which will be very, very juicy. But overall, as you can see, some picks really worked out, some did not. Of course, the disappointments were the Fulham players, Raul and Leno. I still think I would have definitely picked Raul, to be honest. Looking at the fact that Muniz was out, looking who he was playing in Southampton, I think I would have still probably taken that gamble all the way. The other player that I was looking at was, of course, Danny Welbeck. He did nothing, so I didn't really gain too much out of that one. Obviously, Leno was a little bit disappointing. We were umming and ahhing and weren't 100% convinced that he was going to be the player, but I didn't really fancy Wolves for the double up in terms of their defence. And I think if Jose Sal doesn't save that penalty, it goes a very different way, and we're also left with a goalkeeper sat on probably 2 points as well. Trent was a big gamble. It worked, but of course, as you can see, Cucurella and Sessegnon on the bench with 6 and 11 really did kick us in the nuts. We knew Luis Diaz was going to play. We knew he was going to start, so very good on that one. Of course, Barnes, not really at the races, but everybody else did exceptionally well. Sticking with Salah captain as well, it worked out. I said that he was going to still be very hungry for goals, and that was definitely the case. Definitely could have got more out of that game as well, to be honest. You know, the Darwin pass, the own goal, if he could have just got a little touch on that, definitely could have come away with even more points. But overall, we have to take the green arrows, especially at this point in the season and the position we're in. We've still got Brian Mbeumo to play. If he goes and delivers some goods, we could really be chasing down a top 5k finish this season, which would be honestly insane if we were to do that. But before that obviously takes place, let's take a look at my transfer plans heading into game week 35. Now, first off, I want to start by looking at the schedule that is coming up. Obviously, this is still widely TBC, to be honest, regarding double game weeks and, of course, blank game weeks in 36 and 37. The best person to go and follow on Twitter is, of course, Ben Crellin. If you've watched any FPL content creators, you know that this man is pretty much hailed as a god at this point for what he does for the FPL community in terms of doubles, blanks, and of course planning to get the strategy right for chips and of course future transfer plans as well. So like I said, go and give this man a follow. The work that he does every single season is stupendous and honestly deserves more praise, to be honest, than he gets. But this is what he's currently got. Obviously, like I said, a lot of this is still up in the air. However, the highest percentage chance of a double in 36 is of course coming for Aston Villa with Bournemouth and Tottenham, and of course Tottenham with Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. Out of those two, I would definitely be looking more towards banking kind of some transfers and looking at Villa players rather than Spurs. I think they're just too terrible and obviously are going to be focusing, of course, their efforts towards the Europa League campaign. Anyway, if City got the double, that would really put me in a great position, to be honest. I've already got triple City in KDB, Gvardiol and Marmoush. Obviously, I'm still triple Crystal Palace as well, so I'm a little bit hesitant to take any of their players out in case there's a slight chance that they potentially get a double as well. Obviously, Bournemouth, they've got a strong probability as well. The likes of Kluivert, Semenyo, Evan Nielsen, if he gets that ban revoked as well, could all be pretty decent options as well. But, you know, we've got some good fixtures in there. But I think at the moment, for me, I think in the wildcard video, I suggested to people just holding on to those transfers until we get a little bit more news ahead of game week 35. I feel if we are going to get any news, it is of course going to come before game week 35. So of course we can plan a little bit more better and of course look to target the doubles in 36 and of course navigate those blanks in game week 37. But moving on into my transfer targets then, I'm, of course, going to be looking at the Brentford boys. Those fixtures, even without a double, are delicious. Manchester United, whose focus, like I said, is elsewhere, very similar to Spurs. They're, of course, going to be looking at the Europa league for their Champions League qualification. They've also been pretty terrible defensively over the past 5 game weeks for XG conceded, and over the course of the season as well, they're also pretty terrible. Same with Ipswich. Recent results have not been great. Recent XG conceded, absolutely pish. They've got one of the worst home records in Premier League history as well. Only picking up 7 points at home this season is absolutely disastrous. Despite Brentford's, iffy away form, you still probably back them to go and win there as well. And then Fulham, I genuinely don't know what to predict of Fulham. They never seem to keep a clean sheet. They've only kept 3 so far this season. I'm really unsure how Anthony Robinson has ended up as one of the highest scoring defenders in the game with only 3 clean sheets. It is a little bit baffling, but that is the position that we are in with Fulham. So overall, the next 3 fixtures are delicious. A potential captaincy punt maybe this week as well with United if you're not convinced by Salah on Bryan Mbeumo, because he has been in tremendous form, as you can see, over the past 5 game weeks. 3 goals, 2 assists. This isn't even factoring in the fact, of course, he has got a game to play still. So if you were potentially looking at bringing him in, do make sure that he gets through the Forest game, of course, unscathed. Then, of course, heads into this game against Manchester United, where, again, I think he could absolutely smash it apart. And you know what? I think he is going to be one of those dangerous players in terms of effective ownership. So if you are in a pretty decent position in terms of rank, I imagine Bryan is going to be a pretty terrifying player to not own for these final few game weeks, to be honest. So I'm trying to get him in my team any way I can. In terms of the other player, it is going to be Yohan Wissa. Obviously a big fan of him, and the pair of them I think are exceptional. I think if, Crystal Palace don't get that double, I would be very tempted to drop Mateta to Wissa and try and upgrade Sarr to Mbeumo any way I can. It might require me to take a -4, but it honestly would be a move that I would be very, very kind of all for, to be honest, because I really like the pair of them. It covers off the Brentford attack. If anybody's going to score out of there, it's usually got one of these two involved in it. Of course, Bryan is the bigger hitter for me with, of course, penalties and his confirmed 90 minutes. But Wissa this season has been an absolute joke. And again, one of my favourite players to, of course, take a look at if you are in the market for a striker this game week. Moving on then, let's take a look at my other option, and it is going to be Matheus Cunha. As we saw, there is a slight potential chance of a double in 36, which would be very nice to see for, of course, Wolves. And Cunha, he just is the talisman of this side, and that is what the kind of criteria for my team is, buying the talisman. Same with Mbeumo, same with Wissa. Those guys usually get the goal involvements, and Cunha fits in that bracket as well. If Wolves usually score, he's got some sort of part of involvement within that goal, whether that be the assist, whether that be the goal itself, or some sort of build-up play. That is why I absolutely love this man. I think, despite the transfer rumours, he's probably going to play every single game for the remainder of the season. If you don't know, in the Premier League, it's absolutely massive in terms of prize money difference just for going up a couple places. And I think Wolves will want to try and, of course, get as high as possible, because they probably know they're going to lose Cunha. They're going to need to get more funds in the club to, of course, reinvest for players next season as well, with, of course, Cunha's release clause being rather generous for his price as well. So I think he's going to play every single game. Would not put it past him. Obviously, I banged on about his baseline BPS and him being a bonus points monster in every single video, so I'm not going to bore you with that. But I genuinely do believe that is one of the main metrics that does make me really, really throb for this guy, to be honest. And there's no other way of putting it. He's genuinely that good at the game. And if I could this week, I would love to bring in Wissa, Cunha and Mbeumo all in one. But it would require me taking a big hefty minus. And I don't just think it is going to be possible for this week. But Matheus Cunha, despite the difficult fixture of City away, I still think is an absolutely fantastic option to, of course, be taking a look at to bring in for this game week. The final 2 players I want to talk about are 2 players I think you should be looking to sell in the next few weeks. Now, I don't own either of these 2 players, but Cole Palmer and Bukayo Saka for me would definitely be 2 players I would be looking to sell off. Of course, Liverpool wrapped up the league title on Sunday against Spurs, so that now means effectively Arsenal are just kind of trying to secure top 4 football. You imagine they're probably just going to do it. Their sole focus, of course, is going to be on this PSG Champions League semi-finals. Getting to that final is going to be more important than, securing 2nd or 3rd, realistically, in my personal opinion. They know they're probably going to get top 4 or top 5 now football for this season. The sole focus is going to be towards the Champions League, and I think that is where they're going to concentrate all their energy towards. And Bukayo Saka, because of that, is definitely going to see reduced minutes over the next few weeks, in my personal opinion. So I probably would be looking to offload him, look or wait to see what teams get doubles, or of course maybe make that move to Brian and Mbeumo as well if it does free up some funds. Same goes with Cole Palmer as well. No double game weeks. Of course he doesn't have the Champions League prospects, but the confidence is just not there. It's now been 104 days since he scored his last Premier League goal. Only 2 assists, as you can see, within his past 5 game weeks. It's just not been good enough. The underlying data as well is pretty shocking, and the fixtures don't really lend themselves towards Chelsea either. Liverpool and Newcastle, for me personally, don't seem like 2 great fixtures where I would want an out of form attacker, especially when I am paying that 10.6 million price tag, for me, in my personal opinion. And this is something as well, just because you see a player has a high price tag, it doesn't mean that they, of course, are more likely to get a return. That is completely BS. Look at Cole Palmer last season when he was like down at 5-6 million. Look at Morgan Rogers this season. He's pretty much been performing like a 7-8 million pound player. Brian Mbeumo has been performing like a 9-10 million pound player this season. Don't judge your transfers based on a player's price tag. Don't think because they're more money, I should keep them or I should give them another opportunity. If they're not doing the business, get rid of them. Simple as that. And that is why I'm going to recommend to you guys to potentially get rid of Saka, but definitely would be looking to sell off Cole Palmer. Now let's go ahead and look at my team for game week 35 and of course my transfer targets. So, as you can see with the team, all I've done pretty much is just add Cunha for Mateta at the moment. That is probably the only feasible move I could realistically see myself making heading into this game week. Of course, I do have other options available, but I am currently just sitting and waiting for the information because I do feel it is going to be massively imperative for, of course, my potential transfer strategies. Now, some people might be saying, well, you know, you've got Bowen. Surely you could just upgrade Jared Bowen and get Mbeumo that way. I could, but I really like Bowen's fixtures. Both Tottenham and United, either side of Europa League games, for me screams like, you know, that could be West Ham wins for both of those games, with, of course, priority taken for the Europa League for United and Spurs on those ones. And Spurs at the weekend look absolutely woeful. Again, Jared Bowen does fit into that talisman theory as well, being the main man, being the key man, being the man that you want to see. Usually when West Ham score, he's got some sort of involvement again. Obviously, I'm not keen on the position I'm in with the Arsenal triple up in terms of defence either. I definitely think Saliba, Kivior and Raya are all potentially ones as well that could be on the chopping block. We could downgrade Saliba. That would free up a lot of money, and I definitely think that might be the play to do, because it would then give us the money to, of course, go and upgrade Sarr. So I think one of the options I potentially could look at is maybe somebody like a Nico Williams, if I can spell his name correctly. If I were to do this and then bring in Mbeumo here, we'd have plenty of money to do that. And that is with the Cunha transfer as well. So that potentially could be the move that we go for over the next few weeks as well, in kind of staggered processes. Looking to bring in Williams, who might have a double in 36. Looking to bring in Mbeumo, again, might have a double in 36 and could be one of those big players. And then, of course, do we go Visser? Do we go Cunha within that last striker spot as well? Those are the kind of plans I'm currently thinking, but of course it is a very rough template at the moment, and it's all dependent on the announcements we get regarding doubles and of course blanks in game week 36 and 37. But for right now, that is currently where my thinking is at. Let me know where you're at with your team in the comment section below. I'll try and answer as many questions as I possibly can. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 35.